So Justin Trudeau resigned today. Unlike most Canadians, I'm not as excited to see him go. I really would have liked to see him stay until the next election. I think, it would have been better for the country, much more embarrassing for him had he done that. I think it would have been a really disastrous, a crushing defeat for the Liberals. And I would have definitely liked to see that. I think now they get a lot more time and they can also kind of use him as just the scapegoat for everything they've done. So the Liberal Party will put a new leader in and everything bad that they've done, they'll push off on him. And this new person will be the savior, is going to change the party, bring them back to center and do all these good things. So I would have liked to see him stay a little bit longer because of that. Even in his speech, it was funny to watch how he blamed the party basically for infighting, is why he couldn't focus on running the next time. It was nothing that he had done or that Canadians hate him. And the also thing that was a little bit funny was that his speech blew away before he came out there. So even his speech didn't want to stick around for him. So here's some of my thoughts, kind of like a letter to Justin Trudeau of what I have thought about his prime ministership. When he took over, he had basically a balanced budget, which came from Stephen Harper, right? And what he did with that was rack up more debt than all the other prime ministers combined. So he put our country in a horrible spot doing that, right? Immigration really wasn't an issue 10 years ago. Canadians didn't talk about it. It was something that was always looked at very positively. And now he basically destroyed our immigration system, right? It was something that, benefited the country. Now I don't think Canadians really, they don't trust the system. They don't trust our border, and they don't think it's a benefit to the country anymore. One of the things that bothered me the most about his anything that he did was the erosion of free speech, right? He did that very quickly when he came in, and he used what he called hate speech laws to censor, suppress and silent opposing views. But the thing about free speech that people have to keep in mind is whenever you let a government do that, there's always going to be a change of government. So maybe people support him and what he calls hate speech. But what happens if someone on the far other side comes in and decides that hate speech is something that you like to say? Or, you can play it anyway. Like a lot of people don't like Donald Trump, right? What if we get a Canadian version of that? And he now has all these laws that dictate what hate speech is. So it doesn't matter if you agree with the current government or not. You should never let the government take away free speech. That's one of the things that makes our country great, or it did. And he did more to get rid of that than I think any prime minister ever has. You talk to anyone in like law enforcement or the justice system, like he's kind of ruined that as well. It took away he's changed so much and made it so hard for police to actually keep people arrested. They can do a crime and get out the next day, things like that. So that's kind of went down the tank since he got in as well. Taxes, obviously carbon tax, Pierre's running on axe the tax, but carbon tax was not a net positive for the country, right? They always try to say that more people get money back than spend and all this stuff, but across the board, it made Canadian companies a lot less competitive on a global stage. It overall lowered our GDP a lot. If you look at even their own reports, it says, it had a negative impact on the economy as a whole. And it's hard to even remember all the stupid stuff Trudeau's done, right? On the world stage, he can just constantly embarrasses us, right? He did they called it the infamous costume tour of India, where he went there and dressed up in all these different costumes and danced around. And he's always doing this tone deaf virtue signaling, right? He's like, I think at this point he is a global laughingstock. You can watch news in the States or in England, other countries, they're always making fun of him now. He's just done too much to even name on that front. He just did the Taylor Swift dancing thing and all of this stuff. He claims to be a feminist, and then anytime a woman in his party actually stands up to him, he ends up firing them or pushing them out.
And yet, just a few weeks ago, the United States voted for a second time to not elect its first woman president. Everywhere, women's rights and women's progress is under attack, overtly and subtly. But I want you to know that I am, and always will be, a proud feminist. You will always have an ally in me and in my government.
Jody Wilson-Raybould was the big one that most people probably remember. I think there's a book about it, but there's been many others. And as far as scandals, there's never been someone with so many, him and his, his party kind of in general. But I think right at the beginning, he had the convocation scandal, the SNC Lavallee scandal, the We Charity scandal. There's just all of these things, and there's so many of them that you forget, what he's done. And his cabinet as well. There's been too many to even name, and that's people that he picked, so he's somewhat on the hook for that. But I think probably, the thing that his biggest achievement is basically destroying the Liberal Party. Forever, we basically have a 3-party system, and the Liberals were supposed to be the center party. And when he got in, he didn't pick people that were center left. He picked very far left, like Stephen Guilbeault, and some of these people they might have even been too far left for the NDP party. And as much as people think Canada's socialist, the NDP party, which is socialist, never gets that much of the vote. They maybe get 20% of the vote. So Canadians overall don't want a socialist party. And he basically took a party that was supposed to be centrist and turned it, extremely socialist. And I think it turned off. That's why he's polling so low, as anyone who was, somewhat moderate now doesn't have a home, right? You're either going to the right, which most people that voted Liberal didn't align with, or you're going to the NDP, who now seems less left, maybe even than Trudeau. So I think they're going to have to do a whole rebrand on the Liberal Party to come back now to have any chance of not, completely destroying the party. Like where his polling was now, they would have lost official party status, and they would have got like 6 seats, I think. So it would have been complete decimation of the party. So, as he steps down, the country's way more divided than we've ever been before, way more indebted than we've ever been before. It's hard to even imagine how we get out of this. So I think this, as I wish he would have stayed until the next election, but as he steps down, it does kind of hopefully closes the book on this chapter, which has been a pretty dark chapter in Canadian history. It has not been a good 10 years. And I think there's hope, right? It kind of opens the door for someone new to come in, and Canadians have to show that we're done with this and we're going to vote differently. We reject the division and the debt and all of these negative things, and we want something new. I think it is a season for hope for Canadians. So Trudeau's career is over. I'm sure he'll get a nice job at the World Economic Forum or somewhere like that now. But the damage he's done definitely is going to linger in Canada and put us back a very long time. And whoever inherits the country now, the next prime minister, is going to have to deal with all of that. So what I think the Liberals will try to do now is bring in a new person, similar to what they did with Kamala in the States, right? They just kind of pushed everything off on Biden. She didn't take credit or for any of the negative stuff that was happening in the country, even though she was the vice president. And I think they'll do something similar now. They'll put in a new person. Someone like Mark Carney, I think, would appeal to a lot of people. He seems intelligent. On the finance side, there's no way he could be as bad as the previous administration. And I think they'll do that. They'll put someone in, kind of try to rebrand and get people to think they're back, in the center, and they have a new person that's going to come in and do that. And I just hope Canadians don't fall for it, right? A lot of the people who are currently sitting in Parliament, they voted for all of Trudeau's things time and time again, year after year. So these aren't all of a sudden, they didn't change, right? Just because they're giving you a new talking point or message, right? Even if it is Mark Carney, he was supportive of the carbon tax. And so we need a big change, and it needs to be a mandate. Like I really hope the next election, it's overwhelming and it shows that Canadians are done with this and they want change, and it's not just, a 40% split or something like that, where a lot of people go back to the Liberal Party just because Trudeau's gone. It's still the party. They still have a lot of people in there that need to go and that did vote for all of his policies for the last couple of years. So thanks for listening this week. It'll be interesting to see what the coming weeks have in store. We'll keep you guys updated. See you next week.